Most people think awakening looks like fireworks, like a sudden bolt of clarity, like a loud moment when everything changes. But real awakening, the kind that transforms your life, begins much quieter. It starts when something inside you shifts, when you begin questioning your patterns, when the way you see yourself no longer fits the way you've been living. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that the subconscious mind is where all true change begins, not in the surface level affirmations, not in trying harder, but in reprogramming the deep beliefs that silently rule your life. And here's what no one tells you. You don't have to try to awaken your subconscious. It's already happening, right now. If you've been feeling this pull towards something more, so how do you know if you're truly awakening your subconscious? There are signs, and once you recognize them, you'll never doubt again that you're on the path. In this message, I'll walk you through 7 clear signs, taught through the timeless wisdom of Florence, that your inner world is shifting and that your outer reality is about to follow. Because awakening isn't a mystery, it's a process. And the first step is recognizing that your current discomfort, confusion, or even silence might be your mind's way of rearranging everything, not to punish you, but to align you. So take a breath and stay with me. These 7 signs are not random. They are evidence that your subconscious mind is opening to truth. And once that door opens, it doesn't close. One of the first signs that your subconscious mind is waking up is this. You stop believing everything you think. You begin to notice your thoughts like someone watching traffic. They pass. Some are loud. Some are familiar. But now, you see them for what they are. Mental patterns, not truths. Most people live their entire lives on mental autopilot. They accept every thought as reality. I'm not ready. I always mess things up. I don't deserve more. And without realizing it, they build their life around these silent assumptions. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that your words and beliefs are seeds, and if you don't guard the soil of your mind, it will grow whatever is planted, even if it's poison. But awakening starts the moment you pause and ask, is this belief actually mine? Where did this voice come from? Do I want this thought shaping my future? This is not confusion, it's liberation. You're no longer blindly reacting to thoughts. You're choosing your mental environment. And that's a massive shift. When the subconscious begins to awaken, you start to realize how much of your life was based on unquestioned programming. Old beliefs from your childhood, society, religion, relationships, all running in the background. But now, you're the observer, and the observer has power. Florence said, the subconscious has no sense of humor and does not know whether you're joking or not. Whatever you speak, it accepts as truth. That's why awareness is the first sign. Because only through awareness can you begin to choose differently, to speak differently, to create differently. You're no longer at the mercy of every thought that crosses your mind. You're taking the pen back. You're writing your own narrative. And that's not just a mindset shift. That's a soul awakening. At first, it's subtle. You're sitting in the same places, around the same people, hearing the same conversations. But something feels different. You feel like a guest in your own life. What used to feel comfortable now feels heavy. What once felt exciting now feels empty. And no one around you may notice. But inside, You've changed. This is the second sign. Your subconscious is no longer aligned with the external version of your life. You've started to reprogram how you think, how you speak, how you see yourself. And now, your environment can't keep up. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that when the inner world shifts, the outer world must adjust. That discomfort you're feeling isn't wrong. It's necessary. It's a signal that your frequency has elevated, and the old vibrations can't hold your attention anymore. You're not being negative or too sensitive. You're simply awakening. The people who used to comfort you may now drain you. The habits you once defended now feel pointless. You may even feel exhausted after social interactions that used to energize you. Why? Because your energy has become more selective. You're more aware of what nurtures you and what depletes you. And your subconscious, now more awake, is rejecting anything that contradicts your new identity. Florence once said, "Change your thoughts, and you change your world." But here's the part she didn't sugarcoat. Changing your world often means outgrowing parts of it. And yes, this stage can feel lonely, because clarity creates space. But in that space, your true alignment begins to form. You'll start noticing new desires, new people, new experiences. Not because you forced it, but because your vibration called for it. The disconnection you feel isn't a step backward. It's a sign that your subconscious is waking up to what you actually deserve. And that means letting go of what no longer reflects your truth. This is where the shift becomes undeniable. You try to go back to the habits that once felt safe, but now they feel heavy, forced, draining. You can no longer numb yourself the same way. You can't distract yourself like you used to. Even procrastination feels different. Not like avoidance, but like something you don't believe in anymore. This is one of the clearest signs that your subconscious mind is awakening. Because true transformation doesn't begin when you add new habits. It begins when you lose tolerance for what no longer serves you. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that all change begins in the invisible. And the first invisible shift is this inner resistance, that friction between who you've been and who you're becoming. You may find yourself wanting to isolate, not to escape, but to reset, to hear yourself more clearly, to stop performing and start listening. You might start waking up in the morning with a question you can't ignore. What am I doing with my time? What am I still holding on to that no longer matches my truth? The discomfort of your old patterns becomes louder than the fear of the unknown. And that's where real change begins. This isn't about discipline. This is about identity. Your subconscious is no longer allowing you to act against your highest self, even if your conscious mind is still trying to hold on. Florence used to say, "The game of life is a game of boomerangs." Our thoughts, deeds, and words return to us sooner or later, with astounding accuracy. So when your thoughts and actions start clashing, your subconscious speaks up. It sends you that uneasy feeling, that sense that you've outgrown your old self, but haven't fully stepped into the new one yet. That's the in-between space. It's uncomfortable, but it's sacred. Because in that space, you're not just changing habits. You're rewriting identity, and your subconscious is asking one thing from you. Stop betraying the future version of yourself. That's the third sign. A quiet but powerful resistance to anything that tries to pull you back into who you no longer are. When the subconscious begins to awaken, the noise of the world starts to lose its grip on you. You stop craving constant stimulation, the background chatter, the endless scrolling, the need to always be doing something. It all starts to feel loud, too loud. And instead, you begin to crave silence, not out of sadness or boredom, but because something real is finally rising to the surface. Florence Scovel Shinn often reminded her students that the subconscious doesn't operate in chaos. It responds to stillness. It is in stillness that divine ideas are planted, nourished, and brought to life. So when you begin to choose quiet moments over constant distraction, that's not laziness. That's alignment. You may notice yourself creating new rituals without even planning to. You wake up a little earlier just to breathe. You stop reaching for your phone the moment you feel discomfort. You pause before reacting, because now you recognize the space between the trigger and the truth. That space, that silence, is sacred. It's where reprogramming begins. When your subconscious starts to shift, you naturally begin to protect your energy. You stop chasing conversations that don't go anywhere. You stop over-explaining yourself. You start listening to your intuition again. Florence said, "Infinite Spirit, open the way for my great abundance. I am an irresistible magnet for all that belongs to me by divine right." But how can you hear the voice of Infinite Spirit if you're drowning in noise? You begin to realize that clarity doesn't scream, it whispers. And when your mind is too crowded, you miss the guidance that was meant just for you. So you retreat, not to isolate, but to remember. You unplug, not because you're weak, but because you're tuning into a frequency that most people never stop long enough to hear. And the more you sit in that stillness, the more your subconscious begins to reflect your true essence. You stop reacting. You start creating. And that's the fourth sign. You begin to return to yourself. Not through effort, but through presence. This is one of the most powerful signs of awakening. You stop hiding. You stop editing yourself to be palatable. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You begin to speak, not from ego, but from alignment. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that the word is law, that whatever you declare with faith becomes a seed in the subconscious. And when your mind begins to awaken, your words change. You stop saying, "I hope." You start saying, "I know." You stop saying, "Maybe one day." You start saying, "This is already mine." And yes, in the beginning, this feels uncomfortable. You may feel misunderstood. You may even lose people along the way. But your soul will feel clean, clear, free. Because once your subconscious has been touched by truth, it can't go back to the lie. You stop apologizing for wanting more. You stop diluting your dreams to be more digestible. You stop asking for permission. Instead, you begin to declare what is yours, with peace, with presence, and with power. Florence used to say, "Fear is only inverted faith. It is faith in evil instead of good." So when your voice shakes, but you speak anyway, that's not fear winning. That's you reclaiming your faith. And that's the fifth sign. You begin to live out loud, not for attention, but for alignment. You honor your desires. You protect your energy. You build a new reality from the inside out. And if this message echoed something deep within you, let your subconscious hear your decision. Comment below. I decide now. Let that be your first declaration. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel, because this space is here to help you remember who you are and create what is already yours by divine right. Take one deep breath. Feel yourself returning to the truth. It is done.